Number 4. Lucy Ann Johnson. In 1961, 26-year-old Lucy Johnson was living in Surrey, British Columbia with her husband, Marvin, and their 2 children, Linda and Daniel. Later that year, Lucy went to work in the morning and never returned back home. Even though Marvin knew that his wife was missing, he didn't report her disappearance to the police. Marvin got remarried to another woman and told his 2 children to never mention their mother's name again. Linda and Daniel were only 7 years old when their mother disappeared, and they had always held on to the hope that she was alive somewhere. In 1965, 4 years after Lucy's disappearance, Marvin finally reported her missing. Police were very suspicious of Marvin's actions and concluded that he was responsible for her disappearance. Marvin was extensively questioned and his backyard was excavated, but after weeks of investigation, no evidence was found to charge him as the suspect. Over the years, Daniel died from drowning when he was 20 years old, and in 1990, Marvin passed away from a heart attack. In June 2013, almost 52 years after Lucy went missing, the police highlighted her disappearance as a cold case in their Missing of the Month series. Following that, Linda decided to do an investigation of her own. She was able to find an old document which indicated that her mother lived in Yukon before moving to Surrey. Linda placed an ad in a local paper with a photo of her mother. A month later, a man by the name of Howard Glenn saw the ad, and he called his sister Rhonda to email Linda. Howard and Rhonda were able to identify the picture of Lucy Johnson, and they said that she is their 77-year-old mother. They further stated that she is still alive and well and living in Whitehorse, Yukon. It turns out that Lucy had fled to the Yukon in 1961 and started a new family without ever telling them anything about her previous life. Lucy stated that she had disappeared because her late husband Marvin was an alcoholic and very abusive. When she tried to take her 2 children with her, Marvin would not allow it. Linda knew her father was an alcoholic, but she had never experienced any physical abuse from him. While she doubts her mother's claims, she's happy to forget the past and just enjoy their time together now. Number 3. Petra Patzika. In 1984, 24-year-old Petra was a computer science student in Braunschweig, Germany. On July 26th of that year, she left her dorm to take a bus to attend her brother's birthday party. However, her family said that she never arrived at their place, and they quickly reported her missing. During the widespread manhunt for Petra, a 19-year-old man who was the main suspect in an unrelated case was arrested. He confessed to killing Petra, but he refused to tell police where he hid the body. But a few months later, he recanted his confession. Many believe that Petra had met with foul play and that her body would likely not be discovered. In 1989, German authorities officially declared her legally dead. 31 years later, in 2015, 55-year-old Petra was found living in the western city of Dusseldorf. She apparently called the police and alerted them that her apartment was robbed. When the officer asked her name, she initially called herself Mrs. Schneider. However, after being asked for identification, she later confessed her true identity. She showed her out-of-date passport and ID to prove her real name. She told them that she was the missing college student from 1984. She also revealed that she had been living in several German cities over the past 3 decades without telling any relatives she was alive. She had no social security card, driver's license, nor a bank account, and she paid all of her bills in cash. As to the motive of her disappearance, she gave no explanation, and she expressly said that she does not want to make contact with the public or her family. She was questioned if there was violence in her family, but she clearly ruled that out. The police did not consider that she committed a criminal offense since she didn't use false papers. However, she was ordered to be officially registered with German authorities as alive. Number 2. Lawrence Joseph Bader. In 1957, 34-year-old Lawrence was a cookware salesman from Akron, Ohio. She lived with his wife, Mary Lou, and their 4 children. On the morning of May 15th, Lawrence told his wife that he had to go deal with some bad checks from some business transactions and that he was probably going to go fishing after that. The next morning, his boat was found washed up on the rocks at nearby Perkins Beach. After hours searching, the Coast Guard did not find a body, but they claimed that he died from drowning. They further stated that it wasn't uncommon to find the body since the drowning victims could disappear without a trace in the big lake. Investigators also found no evidence of foul play in Lawrence's disappearance. However, financial reports did raise some concerns. He earned about $10,000 a year as a salesman, but he hadn't filed any tax returns since 1951. He also had taken out about $40,000 in life insurance policies, and he had a $17,000 mortgage on his home. 4 days after he was reported missing, Lawrence moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and he changed his name to John Fritz Johnson. He immediately attracted attention in the area after he sat on a flagpole for 30 days to raise money for polio. His popularity led to him becoming a bartender, radio announcer, and TV sports director at Channel 7. With his flamboyant personality, he became one of Omaha's most popular personalities. He was known to be a social butterfly and had a reputation for being quite the ladies' man. On April 11th of 1962, he married a former model named Nancy Zimmer. They had 2 children, one that was conceived during their marriage, and a second that Nancy had from a previous marriage. During his television career, his health took a turn for the worse. He had been diagnosed with a malignant tumor which ended up costing him his left eye, and he had to wear an eye patch to cover it. In February of 1965, a family friend of the Bader's family recognized Lawrence despite the eye patch and the mustache he had. The friend then called 2 of Lawrence's brothers and told them what he saw. The man went up to John and told him that he was Lawrence Bader. However, John said that he had no idea who Lawrence Bader was, and even agreed to be fingerprinted and to meet the 2 Bader brothers to prove this. Both Omaha and Chicago police took his fingerprints and sent them off to the FBI. They were compared to a set of fingerprints on file, and it perfectly matched to Lawrence Bader. In spite of this, he still continued to say that his name is John Fritz Johnson, and he had no recollection of his previous life. He had no clue who his first wife was, and no recognition of his own mother. His 2 brothers tried to catch him in a lie with trick questions, but they became convinced that his prior memory was totally wiped out. He spent a week undergoing tests in an Omaha hospital, and doctors concluded that he really didn't have any knowledge of his former life. Even if he didn't recall his previous life, he was still in an incredible web of legal problems. He was married to 2 different women at the same time, and he wasn't providing child support to his first 4 children. His first wife had received the life insurance money when he was declared dead. Under Nebraska law, the judge declared that since he was married before, his second marriage was automatically considered void. With all the bad publicity he was receiving, sponsors did not want to have their businesses associated with him, and as a result, he was forced to leave his job at the TV station. Lawrence ended up staying at a welfare home, but he still continued to visit his second wife Nancy and their children daily. About a year after the whole mess started to unravel, he learned that he was suffering from terminal liver cancer. He later died on September 16th of 1966, still denying any knowledge of his previous life. Number 1. Agatha Christie. On the evening of December 3, 1926, 36-year-old Agatha, a well-renowned crime novelist, left her home in Sunningdale, England. She left a note for her secretary that she was going to Yorkshire. The next morning, her vehicle was found abandoned at the edge of a quarry not far from her home. The hood was up and the headlights were on. Inside, authorities found Agatha's fur coat, her old driver's license, and a bag of clothes. Their initial theory is that she met with foul play, and the prime suspect is her husband, Archibald Christie. A few days prior to Agatha's disappearance, Archibald asked for a divorce, and he told her that he was having an affair with Nancy Neely. Detectives questioned Archibald for 2 days and even searched through all of his belongings in his house, but after an extensive investigation on him, he was ruled out as a suspect. News of Agatha's disappearance caused an outcry from the public, and a massive manhunt was initiated. Over 1,000 officers and 15,000 volunteers combed the countryside, while dredge teams scoured the surrounding lakes and streams. 11 days later, in December 14th, a local musician recognized and spotted Agatha inside Swan Hydropathic Hotel. She was registered by the name Teresa Neely, borrowing the last name of her husband's mistress. There had been a debate over what happened to Agatha during those 11 days. At the time, many believed she staged her own disappearance for publicity, while others suggested that she was planning a clever scheme to frame her husband and his mistress for murder. However, Agatha claimed that she had no memory of how she'd ended up at the hotel. It had been theorized that Agatha's impending divorce and the recent death of her mother caused her to enter a deep depression. A day before she disappeared, a witness saw Agatha walking alone down the road. In spite of the cold weather, she was only wearing a thin dress, and she appeared to look very upset and confused. In 1928, 2 years after the incident, their divorce was finalized. Agatha traveled to Istanbul that year and met Max Malawan, whom she married in September of 1930. Agatha herself said very little about the disappearance. She rarely discussed the matter in interviews, and there is barely any reference about it in her biography. Agatha died on January 12th of 1976, and she took the full truth about what happened to her grave.